Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Toby Eunice with a Gypsy's Kiss. Stick with me a couple of seconds, and I will introduce you to Fenn treasure hunter Sean Martinez. So, Sean is the 10th in our series of It's All About You interviews. If any of you who are watching this would like to participate in this interview series and you are a Fenn treasure searcher, just go to questionnaire.agypsyskiss.tv and fill out the questionnaire. We see it in the order of their arrival, and at the moment we have around 50. So we're working our way down towards towards that number. All right. So, Sean, I've been looking forward to this interview. I'm glad that you could make it. I think you have a lot of interesting ideas on the search. But first of all, introduce yourself and tell us your name, how you make a living, and where you live.
Well, thank you, Toby, for having me on. My name is Sean Martinez, and I live in Clovis, New Mexico. I've lived here my entire life. New Mexico is home for me. I'm a prior law enforcement officer and worked as a homicide detective and a detective sergeant for law enforcement. I've since retired. I moved on, did purchase a business, and now I do have 4 children, so I'm a full-time father and a part-time treasure hunter.
Well, nice. What a good place to be in life. Let's ask first of all, who is Sean Martinez? How did you tell us a little bit about your life and career and how you got to where you are right now?
Sure. Like I said, I grew up in Clovis, New Mexico. I became a law enforcement officer. My mom still has a picture somewhere of me wearing a T-shirt I made in kindergarten saying I wanted to be a police officer when I grow up. And I grew into that. And so I pursued law enforcement, doing the best job I could to keep the community safe, citizens safe, and be fair as I did that job. It was very rewarding. The training and experience that I received in that is one of the things that I am applying to my search and my solution.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have 4 children. You know, I have 2 teenagers and 2 little ones, and it's a fun time raising them. And I've taken my teenagers out on searches with me. We've been talking about it probably for about 5 years. In 2013, we came across the poem, and sitting around the dinner table while they were still a lot smaller than they are now, I read the poem to them. They were immediately intrigued. They wanted to leave right away and let's go find the treasure. So over the last 5 years, I've been compiling information, ideas, locations as I go up north, which has been the habit every year as possible to go north of Santa Fe
Mm-hmm.
in the summer times, primarily to do fishing or hiking and just enjoy that area. Being from New Mexico, it's really impressed upon me that living here as long as I have, Forrest has lived here longer than I've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
So that really leads me to believe that there's a very great possibility that the chest is hidden here in New
Well,
Mexico.
we're going to get to save that thought because we're going to get into that
Sure.
in just a little bit. So, how many other of your members of your family were in law enforcement? What influenced you to end up there?
Well, there were none. My grandfather was mayor pro tem
Mm-hmm.
here in Clovis, so he was a city commissioner. And just watching him in that position and, growing up, uh, it really encouraged me to move that direction. So the encouragement came when it got really exciting whenever I put in for the position and was selected.
Mm-hmm.
And it just grew from there. And, I was on patrol for, I believe, 2.5 years. And I went immediately into investigations and I spent my remaining time there. So it was very rewarding doing that, especially as now I apply that to my solution for Fenn's poem.
When you say you went into, or quote, went into investigations, unquote, what does that mean exactly?
Well, that means you promote out of the patrol division and you go into a detectives division. You receive advanced training in different areas: interview and interrogation, digital forensics, cellular forensics, crime scene investigation, evidence collection and location of different types of evidence in different areas. So you receive advanced training and you respond to high profile felony crime scenes and process the entire area, and or interview suspects, victims, witnesses in regards to whatever crime may have occurred.
And that process, that collection of information, collection of data, and
Yes.
interviewing the witnesses, what do you do with that, all of that, in order to construct a case? I mean, what happens then?
Well, you typically compile it all. You document as much as you can. You audio record, video record, different interview statements. You thoroughly photograph the scene extensively, and you bring all that information together and develop reports in regards to each of those items that you collected or each of those interviews that you performed, and you put it together in regards to the incident that occurred, whatever type of felony you are investigating, and you apply the elements of the crime to that incident. The next step after that, should you have a suspect and a victim of the incident, you would apply the elements of the crime to the evidence you've collected via interview, crime scene, photograph, video and audio recording. And should the elements of the crime be met in regards to a specific suspect, you would then charge that individual accordingly.
So I want to come back to this process that you're describing, and
Sure.
of course, I wonder whether or not what you've learned as a police detective has provided any additional skills that you can apply to treasure hunting. Let's come back to that because I want to make it a longer part of the conversation.
Sure.
And in comparison, these questions, of course, that we ask on the questionnaire are rather mundane. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff. But let's get
Very
through
good.
these questions first. What year did you start searching for Fenn's treasure?
Well, boots on the ground. My first time, I would say, really looking for the chest with a solution was this year. However, in years past, I've been collecting information and data of different locations and areas that I believe it could possibly be. So, came across the poem in 2013, and over the years, I've just been paying very close attention to details in the state of New Mexico, north of Santa Fe, as I've been there or as I'm researching the area north of Santa Fe and compiling that together to form solutions.
Well, the interesting thing about that strategy is that, of course, you have to be confident in your solution, but you have to also have a certain amount of confidence in the fact that it won't be found during that period that you're not putting boots in the ground.
Absolutely.
How
And
did
I
how
agree
did
with
you
you.
handle that?
Well, I handled that in a way that was really out of my control. I was very busy the last 5 years. I've been very busy, and now I have a lot of free time. So, with that free time, I've been able to devote my skills, knowledge, and abilities that I've developed in my profession and apply them to solving this case, which is Forrest Fenn's
And
treasure home.
it was this year finally that you felt you had enough direction from the results of your research to put boots on the ground. What did that feel like when you did that? And honestly, how did your family respond to that?
Well, I did have enough information and I had enough time, and one thing that I have noticed since then is that from eastern New Mexico up to my solution location really doesn't take all that long to get up there. So I could have been doing this years prior I guess, was talking myself out of it in regards to how busy I had been. The family's great. My teenagers love it. They really want to go put boots on the ground as often as they can. My little boy is going to turn 8 this weekend, and he wants to go searching for the treasure chest for his birthday. He's really excited about that. So they've really taken it in. Both of my teenagers have memorized the poem themselves, and it's been really exciting and rewarding.
So I'll ask the question, although I think I already know the answer. In what state do you think Fenn hid the treasure, and why do you think it's there?
Well, I believe New Mexico, and there's a number of reasons. He's been in New Mexican longer than I've been alive, as I previously stated. New Mexican for, I believe, over 40 years, if I'm correct.
1972.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he's assumed the New Mexican culture and spirituality just based on the statements I've seen him make and the items he collects. So all of that put together with a number of other things that I know about Fenn and how long he's lived here, that really leads me to believe that the chest isn't too far away from him.
So how do you handle the person to whom you explain that, and then they say, oh no, he loves Yellowstone?
Well, he does love Yellowstone, and I would agree with that. But based on the information I've collected from trying to figure out Forrest Fenn, not just his poem or his books, but the person who is Forrest Fenn, he had a special place in Texas where he grew up. He had a special place in Yellowstone where he spent his summers. He had a special place in Vietnam where he spent a year of his life. The one place he has not talked about was his special place in New Mexico, and we are now looking for a special place. So that leads me to believe that it would be here. I appreciate everyone who wants to go search in Yellowstone, and I hope that they find adventure and a treasure of their own. However, I'm going to remain in New Mexico. Of course, I do toy around with Colorado a little bit, but not really to search for the chest, but great fishing up there.
Great fishing. Well, that was very diplomatically put. So, in what year do you believe, or when do you believe, Fenn's treasure will be found? And, well, just when will Fenn's treasure be found?
I would like to say sooner than later. That's my approach to that question. However, if it was up to me, it would be found within the next year or so. Based on my approach, I'm viewing this as a cold case. So I hate for those things to go on longer than they have to. And based on Forrest's comments that he wanted to go fling his body on top of this chest and leave his bones there, that has just driven me on to, in my mind, to approach it as if I am looking for Fenn's body, as if I am looking for the crime scene, to solve the case. And that being my approach, I am spending as much time as I possibly can treating it like a real case where I'm actually looking for the body of Forrest Fenn laying on top of this chest. And who knows? He may get close and still go out there and do that. I'm sure he's backed away from that.
Yeah,
but knowing Forrest, I mean, you never can tell.
Yeah. So there were two questions that were going to come out of that, but the first one I wanted to ask is, in your opinion, where do you think Forrest is on the matter at this stage in his life? Does he want it found? Does he want to let it go? What do you think he thinks?
Well, I think he's having fun. with it. There was a question asked of him, and Sean from the flip side mentioned it last night in regards to. I can't quote it verbatim, but it was a question as to what was the most exciting thing that he did in 2018, or something to that effect. And I believe his answer, and this is not quotes, this is my paraphrase, is that it was sitting, sipping his sarsaparilla and watching the ants climb the tree.
Right.
And the vision that came to my mind when he said that was, we're all the ants, and we're climbing Forrest Fenn's tree. So I think he's really having fun with it. I really think that he's enjoying it to an extent. So I appreciate his position on it. I believe that, just based on my own perspective, that if it's found in his lifetime, he'll have joy in that. To be able to see who finds it, to be able to see the accomplishments of the thrill of the chase come to fruition in someone's life, that will bring him joy. However, on the other side, should he pass, and should it not be found for 1,000 years, this is an individual who believes that one of his bells may be heard, if rung, in 1,000 years by himself, that he would be able to hear that bell. And I can't say whether he will or not. I hope he does. However, I believe he would have joy in 1,000 years if it's found then. So either way, in my opinion, I believe that he's just enjoying the fruits of his labor at this point, and watching all of us come up with all of these solutions and approaches and questions for him, and he knows the answer. So either way, I believe he'll have joy.
So let's go back to the second question out of that one response of yours. You mentioned that you're treating this like a cold case file in which there is a body involved. You imagine
Absolutely.
the potential for him actually having done that. We considered that, but we end up at a problem, and the problem is, in order for him to do that, he leaves a trail, either a paper or a physical trail. Have you thought about what that trail looks like?
I have. I've looked into that trail. I've looked into a number of trails that are potential leads in my case in regards to Forrest Fenn. Within the means that all of us have available to us. So I'm utilizing the same tools that you would be able to use, or anyone out there would have available to them in order to trail Forrest, figure out where he went, when, how often, what was special to him, what was really a treasure to him. Because for Forrest, if he finds an arrowhead, that's a treasure. If he finds a piece of pottery in an arroyo, that's a treasure to him. So not really over focusing on what many would consider a special place to themselves, but trying to identify what, when, and where his special place is located, and then why. And oftentimes the why can come before the former questions.
How would you feel about describing what you envision Fenn's special place to look like?
Well, I have a couple of descriptions that I can give. One would be it would contain the National Forest area of New Mexico, but a lot of people think that it's just because it's called a national forest, it's all trees and wooded and thick with rivers and streams. In New Mexico, national forests can contain desert land, and oftentimes pueblos are located on desert land or in desert areas. Now, doesn't mean you can't go 5 miles or even 1 or 2 miles in one direction or the other, and you're in a thick forest full of pine trees, and so there are two different visions I have of it. One would be in the thick of the wood, in a way that I believe you described, Tony, as Fenny.
Right.
So there's that application. The other would contain mountains north of Santa Fe, the elevation that is required as given by,
Above 5,000 feet, right?
but deserty area. It's I believe it's possible, and I have located a number of the subtleties while boots on the ground in the desert areas. I have come across the purple and yellow flowers in those areas, as well as in the mountain regions. So it's very interesting. I'm not ruling anything out until providentially I have the chest myself. And whether I find it or any of the thousands of other people looking for it do, I'm going to be happy for any of us that
finds it. So
yes.
you sound very confident. So the next question is, what do you believe is the percent probability you will find Fenn's treasure?
Well, I'm not giving myself any more than 50%. I hate to say 1% because if I approach it that way, then that's
A waste of time.
that's a waste of time. Even under 50%, I'm not going to be able to solve this case,
Right.
and that's just not how an investigator would approach any type of cold case that's placed on their desk. They're going to go in it with confidence that they're going to solve it, that they will have a solution that will turn out for the better for everyone, especially if it's a high-profile case, as I'm viewing this. So I'm going to give myself a 50% shot. Now, I can't say this during my career, every high-profile homicide case that I ever worked on directly was always solved, including cold cases. So I'm taking that approach and that confidence that this is just another one of those cases. But in the past, I've had up to 150 cases at one time on my desk, and now I have one. So that gives me confidence that I can spend my time, energy, and efforts on researching and investigating the information that is out there given to us by Forrest, the new hints that are released here and there, some which are just funny and may not even be hints, but just the new information, and gathering all that in, making a file, and coming up with solutions.
So in the intelligence world, when someone asks you what's the probability of accomplishing a particular mission, and you don't have a sense of how it's going to end, you have the problem, but the probability of the solution is based on how much qualified intelligence you have collected up until that point, leading to the solution. And it sounds like some of your work involves some of that intelligence. I won't call it intelligence collection, but collection of data, analysis, evaluation, and that helps you, be that 50% confidence. How does that fit in? How does what you've collected fit into that level of confidence?
Well, it all fits in, especially the more time I spend collecting data and putting things together. I hate to sound cliche by using the term putting together the pieces of the puzzle. However, it really is like that. And some people discount or disregard some of the pieces of the puzzle. Whereas from an investigative standpoint, whether it's extremely important or not, you're going to collect that data and you're going to file it. Now, whether you ever utilize it again or not, that's a possibility. However, it could be a small piece to that puzzle that you need, or the corner, or when you're looking at it from the perspective of a puzzle, it could be the part right in the middle of the face on that puzzle that brings it all together. So I'm trying not to disqualify anything. Putting all the data together and compiling it over time, especially while I am boots on the ground and doing a lot of documenting and documentation and of the area or the scene location. That's very rewarding, especially whenever I can get back home, whether I found, of course, hoping to find it while I'm there, but even though I did not find it, coming back home, putting all that data together, reviewing it, sorting through it, filtering it from photographs, videos, notes, documentation, little pieces of evidence collected out in the field. It's very encouraging to be approaching it that way and not getting discouraged or disheartened as a investigator normally would, considering the sense of urgency investigators oftentimes have trying to solve a case, whether it's a first-degree case that needs solved quickly. The suspect needs apprehended very quickly before anything else bad occurs. I don't have to approach it that way. However, taking a little bit of that with me, and that confidence and that drive and that just encouragement given by Forrest to be confident has spurred me on.
So, how many times have you been boots on the ground, and what are your plans for the short-term future?
I've been boots on the ground, I believe, 6 times since the beginning of June. Now, some of my boots on the ground did not include my search area. However, I include them into my boots on the ground search because they required me to travel a distance and find a specific location to gather and collect information from that could not be collected anywhere else. So that was part of the investigation for me. So that was boots on the ground for me. I've been trying to get out there every weekend or every other weekend over the summer as much as possible. Of course, the fishing's just so dang good up north of Santa Fe, and I get sidetracked sometimes. I'm planning on just spending the morning fishing, or just fish until noon and then treasure hunt, and sometimes the big ones get the best of me, and I have to keep my fly in the water.
I got to tell you that we have been up to our search area 5 times this season, and each time I would just kick myself going like, we spent the time searching and no time fishing. And last week when we went on vacation, we finally decided we're spending 1 day searching and 4 days fishing. So I wasn't about to. I wasn't about to say. It was terrible. I hate admitting that it was terrible, but the water, because the spring melt had been so low, the reservoirs in Colorado are all very low, and so they're limiting the flow through to just the minimums of what the farmers and ranchers require. And so the water was low, and everybody advised us that they had a recent die-off because of the lack of oxygen. And the water was warm. It was I put my thermometer in it, and it was at 70 degrees, and fish just trout just don't like a temperature that high. So but I love the place, and we're going to go back.
Very good. It was pretty low. I believe I was up in that area about 3 weeks ago, and it was it was pretty low.
On the Rio de los Pinos?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It didn't look like it had been up high, and there's a gauging station at Los Pinos. And Kevin, one of our team members, just literally checks that every day because that's what enables us to do the river fording up in Colorado. So, okay, so what states have you been boots on the ground to search for Fenn's treasure? I think you've already told me that.
Boots on the ground, New Mexico and Colorado. However, as I said previously, I didn't give a whole lot of weight to Colorado. I like getting a know of the land, the area that I'm dealing with, and the surrounding areas. So, of course, it's been a custom of mine growing up with my father. Anytime we would go up into northern New Mexico, we would oftentimes drive up into Colorado for whether it's 30, 45 minutes an hour, and just enjoy Colorado and then come on back. So that's one of the main reasons that I tend to go up there during boots on the ground.
And that's been our experience. We didn't realize how much of that area, that southern Colorado area, is just as interesting if you're a fisherman or a hunter as is northern New Mexico. It requires, of course, that you get a separate license, but it was funny because one day we fished the Rio de los Pinos in Colorado, walked 200 feet and fished the Rio de los Pinos in New Mexico. So it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, I did that over on the northeast side of the state. Walked into Colorado, and of course I had my fishing license for Colorado, and part of the lake is New Mexico, the other part's Colorado.
Right, exactly.
Have both fishing licenses.
So, which of the Fenn memoirs do you own?
Okay, I own The Thrill of the Chase, and I can tell you the reason why.
I'm going to ask the reason why, but
The
go ahead.
reason why I just have The Thrill of the Chase is I'm trying to exhaust everything I can out of that prior to moving on to the other books. And the reason for that is his initial belief that all you would need was the poem, the book, because the poem's in the book, and a good map. And so I'm viewing the book as a very interesting clue that in a whole, as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
and it's full of hints. And just pulling those hints out, taking my solution and laying those hints over top of it on a continual, regular basis to see which one sinks in and applies
Mm-hmm.
to each solution. And it's very interesting how rewarding that can be and uh, make you feel as if you're onto something because of that. Especially when you're pulling those hints out because they struck you as interesting.
We're at the poem map stage. I realized that while The Thrill of the Chase and the Once Upon a While were damned interesting reading,
Sure.
they weren't helpful to me other than to give me additional insight to Fenn. But we're at the poem, and I've got the poem memorized, so I don't even take the book anymore. I just take the good map. You know,
Sure.
so it
Just a
can be
good
done.
map.
So, how many hours a week do you spend in research
Oh
for the
boy,
treasure hunt?
that can fluctuate.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl, so I stay up pretty late, pretty often. So a number of hours, I would say I couldn't give you a definite, but treating it like a case, there has been times that I've put in overtime on this case, so very needed. And I've been so close to solutions and just things fitting at times that I woke up and did some research and found a few things. And I keep everything at the end of my garage ready to put in my truck. And within 20 minutes, I was headed north of Santa Fe because of that.
It's funny
So
because that's my garage has these plastic containers and they're sitting there.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
plastic containers ready to
ready
go.
to go.
If something comes up or strikes you, you
Yeah.
can just hop in and get going. So
So let's go back. Let's do what in the film industry they call a callback. Let's go back
sure.
to what we were first talking about and tell me a little bit about how what you have learned as a police officer and a detective has helped you in the way that you've organized your approach to the search.
Well, I use a lot of the same tools that I used in law enforcement in this search. I was able to, of course, receive a lot of training and experience in, you know, um, digitalized items, whether they be photographs or video or surveillance. Interview and interrogation has been really big for me. And I've been really successful at that over the years in my career. So I've applied that, especially to the early interviews with Forrest. I could not be there myself to ask the questions. However, as I review those interviews, I'm able to um, see how he answered those before he had the script. Now he has the
Now he's
script
got
down,
a script, right?
which is very, very interesting to go back and watch those early interviews and his responses to those questions from an investigative perspective or an interviewer's perspective as to his verbal responses or cues, his body language, his heart rate, his breathing, all of those things have been, it's been very rewarding applying those to those early interviews and utilizing them in regards to my solutions. So that has helped a lot. The way that I map certain areas or search certain areas has also assisted in law enforcement when you're looking for a piece of evidence, say the weapon, for example. there are a number of different types of searches that you can do in that area to ensure that you're not going to miss anything or an item. That being the case, it's often crossed my mind to develop a team to search a specific solution location for the chest. But just in the heart of me, I don't see it being found that way.
Right.
I'd rather it be found by someone going alone in there and finding it the way it just adds more essence and purity to the poem for me. Right. To approach it that way. There has been suggestions of utilizing canines to locate the bronze chest in a search area.
I don't think that's even possible, is it?
I don't know. It's been brought up. It's been mentioned that giving them the scent if you are close. Right. For example, the canines that are utilized in different types of detection, whether it be bomb detection or narcotics, they know what they're looking for in the scent of that. So that's been brought up. It's been a possibility that has crossed my mind, and I've been toying with it a little bit. Yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to think about all the possibilities and applying all of the different experiences that I've been through to locating this chest. So I finally get to have a lot more fun without a real crime scene at the end.
Yeah, interesting. When you treat it like a crime scene, it's got be a lot of fun because you don't have a body at the end of all this, right?
Absolutely. So, I'm hoping not.
Yeah. So what's in the future for you?
Future for me, of course, September 6th in Santa Fe. I will be there at the bookstore. I'll be staying down the street. One of my favorite restaurants in the entire world is right around the corner at Yellowsta's Bistro. So I love it there. I'm a New Mexican. Santa Fe is our capital, and I'm very much into the culture and the excitement of being there. Of course, following that, the next day or 2 days, possibly 3, I will be north of Santa Fe with boots on the ground. So,
well, good.
That's the plan going forward.
Of course, we look forward to seeing you on September 6th and make sure we make it a point to spend a little time together and maybe have a cup of coffee, you, me, and Shelley. We'll be up there Wednesday prepping for the shoot on Thursday, and we'll be there pretty early in the morning on Thursday to get things set up. So
very good.
Well, Sean, I can't tell you how much I am happy that we finally got to do this, have this conversation. I was looking forward to it. I knew it would be very informative, and I knew I was going to have a lot of fun with it. So, you met and exceeded my expectations. So thank you very much for that.
Very good.
For those of you that watch this interview and would like to participate in our It's All About You campaign, remember to go to http://questionnaire.agypsieskiss.tv. Fill out the questionnaire. We're just going through those questionnaires as they arrive in order, and eventually we'll get to you and give you a chance to tell us what you think about this grand search of ours. So, Sean, again, thank you for the time for this interview, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Absolutely. I thank you for having me on. I do have a YouTube channel, Figuring Out Forrest. So
I wanted you to mention that. Thank you.
If anyone wants to go check that out, it has some videos right now of just me talking about my view, my perspective, in addition to what to expect if you come to New Mexico and whether you're going to search in the desert area or the mountainous area. There's different videos like that. In addition to that, I also have a Facebook page that is called Figuring Out Forrest Fenn. So it's a group. If you want to go on there and just follow us, we'll update that as often as we can. And if you want to contact me, figuringoutforrest@gmail.com.
Thank you for providing that information. I've also put Sean's YouTube page at the top of this screen, and I'll take the additional information that he's provided and put it in the description box below. So, Sean, again, thank you. And for A Gypsy's Kiss, this is Toby Yonis.